Good morning, Carolina Day School. I'm Hal Pruitt, a dyslexic, a race car driver. Behind me is our race car for the 24 Hours of Barcelona. We're just outside the city preparing for the race. Our first up driver's in the car getting ready to go. The mechanics are tuning the last bit of preparation. Race will be underway in just a few minutes. I'll come back to you and tell you a little about my history, the race, and the car. So see you shortly.
Con el Renault está por delante justo del equipo de Milán, competición número 34 con los favoritos en esta categoría de bravos.
Just checked with the team. We moved up to 14th place, about 5 seconds behind the second place car. We only have about 23 hours to go, so I think we've got a pretty good shot of finishing the race in a good position with a good comeback. Well, meantime, before I have to get in for my stint, let me tell you a little about my history. I was born in Kansas, but essentially was raised in Daytona Beach, Florida. I never really had an interest in racing at a young age. Never thought I would ever do it, even though I'd go to the races. But I started professionally racing about 10 years ago when the opportunities came. A little about my younger life. Growing up, the neighbors had blown up their car, and I essentially got it from them when I was about 13 years old, learned how to rebuild it, turned it into a car, and I learned how to drive. I also had interest in aviation, worked on my pilot's license and solo when I was 16 years old. Let me tell you a little about how dyslexia affected my life. I really wasn't diagnosed with it until just a few years ago. So I essentially went through my entire adult growth, school and adult life without having any knowledge or aware. There was one exposure when I was in maybe 8th grade where the teachers thought that I might be dyslexic. They were always assigning me to extra reading courses. Of course, I was a terrible speller. I had a great difficulty comprehension of what I read. I essentially failed most of my English classes. So school was very tough, but after they additional testing some of the reading, they said I wasn't dyslexic because I didn't reverse my letters and words enough. So again, it was essentially forgotten through most of my life. What I essentially did was learn to overcome the obstacles, and it became sort of the way I just adapted to life. In fact, I can tell you that it was essentially one of the driving forces I think that made me so successful. I just simply said, I'm not going to accept no or failure. I'm going to make something of myself. When I was in high school, or right about near graduation, you go before the guidance counselors and they recommend what you do or what school do you go or what you make. My guidance counselor said, I'm not college material, and recommended that I take a technical class. And essentially said I wouldn't become successful. And that really bugged me a heck of a lot. And I said, I'm going to be different. I'm going to show those people. And that's what I did. Let's take another quick check and see where we are on the race and what our results are. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah, if you can hear me, I'm getting ready to get in the car. Car's on the way in, just leaving the fuel station. Be here in just a second. Good to see us do a driver's change. Just out of my first stint, we have about 18 hours to go in the race. We're currently running 15th overall and second in class. Let's take a couple minutes and continue where we left off about some of my history. I graduated high school in 1972, but didn't score well enough on entrance tests for a four-year college, so instead I chose to go to a local community college. I studied business and computer science. I didn't do really well, and I had struggled again and continued to struggle in reading and writing, but I did really well in sciences. I was a good listener. Well, in school, I started my first computer business and also worked in a marina and boatworks complex. Ultimately, the computer business became quite successful. And by the way, it was actually predated the founding of Microsoft and both Apple Computer. Through the 70s and in the 80s, we specialized in programming and hardware, similar hardware what you have in your personal computer today. Ultimately, one of my customers, Sony, made me an offer to buy the business, and I decided to sell it. Let's take a break and go talk to the team manager. Tell us your name.
My name is Cor Eisen, I'm from Holland, and my team is Cor Eisen Racing, and we're running a Lotus Evora GT4.
Cor runs our team that I'm driving with. We've driven together, maybe 20, 30 times all over Europe. Tell us a little about your career. When did you start?
I started in 1980 in Formula Ford 1600, and from there on I won many championships. I went to Group C racing, Le Mans cars, DTM, I did some IndyCar, F3, F3000, and I'm running GT cars, now the Lotus Evora with held together.
Yeah, how do you think we'll finish this race?
Well, it's a 24-hour race. It's always difficult to judge because anything can happen. We saw that in qualifying that you got hit by another car and you're out. But we are running third place now, and I think we can be up there on the podium. Keep our fingers crossed. The car is quick enough, reliable enough, but we don't get hit from other cars, then we're okay.
Sounds good. Well, we'll check back and see how our car's doing right now. We'll talk to you in a few minutes. Thank you, Cor. We're approximately 11 hours into the race, which means 13 hours to go before we're finished. Just checked the team results. We're currently running 9th overall and second in class. I want to take a minute and show you some in-car footage as well as the start of the race and some up-close shots of the car. See you in a minute. climbed out of the car. It's 1:30 in the morning, so we have about 10 and a half hours to go. When I got out, I got the car to P1, position 1 in our group, and we're running 7th overall in this, out of those 54 cars that we started. I was very fortunate when I sold my company. I was 38 years old. I changed direction. For the next 10 years, I donated my time to working for our local government. I was elected official, and as well as I worked in the nonprofit organizations, particularly the Billfish Foundation, which is a conservation and research organization for billfish, which are sailfish, blue marlin, white marlin, and those sort of species. I spent some time fishing and enjoying the world where I could travel around. I attained a number of records. I caught and released more blue marlin, or actually more sailfish and white marlin than anyone else, tagged and released than anyone in the Atlantic Ocean over a couple of years. I caught blue marlin up to over 1,000 pounds. My specialty was stand-up fishing, where I didn't use a chair, but I held the fishing rods in my own hand and caught them, just like you would do river fishing. I'm also a farmer. Perhaps you've seen Tropicana or drank Tropicana Pure Premium Orange Juice. At my peak production, 1.5 million cartons of that was my juice. One of the things I'm most proud of is the time I was able to spend raising my 2 boys, one of which graduated from MIT. And then, of course, there's racing. I've just passed 170 races in my career, done many races in Daytona, including the 24 Hours of Daytona. In the last few years, I've been having a ball racing all over the world, principally in Europe, Middle East, and of course next week we'll be in Silverstone in the UK, one of the premier F1 tracks. Well, that's about it for tonight. Let's check what the race results are in the morning.
And in third place from the Netherlands, but an international team, Coreuze Racing with Hal Pruitt, Jim Briody, Henk Vassoes, Dirk Schultz and Alistair McKinnon.
I aquí tenim els holandesos, tercer equip classificat a mesa P3 amb un Lotus Evora GT4 Coreuze Racing. Amb Van Zoest, un dels que viuen aquí, Henk Van Zoest, que és català ja.
Doppelsieg für deutsche Teams hier. Battle Motorsport und Bong Motorsport auf den Plätzen 1 und 2 und dann die niederländische Mannschaft Coreuze Racing mit dem Lotus auf dem 3. Platz. Meine Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen, your podium in the SP3 class.
I aquí tenim els tercers, l'equip holandès, Coreuze Racing. Anem amb el cava, algú que es guarda l'ampolla.